Good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Blacklight on Sports. My name is Charles Hallman.
I'm Dr. Mitchell Palmer-McDonald.
Tonight we have a broadcasting veteran who has been very instrumental in covering sports at all levels, and he is very prominent in the community as well as on air. And he's WCCO Radio nighttime host, Henry Lake. Thanks for being
Thanks
with
for
us, Henry.
having me. I'm happy to be here. I didn't, I might have showed up a little bit late, just a little bit late, but we always on time. So,
Just a little, huh?
but I appreciate y'all having me for real.
Well, Henry, the first time I met you, you was just came out of college,
Yep,
and you met with a bunch of us on a Saturday morning
at a Perkins,
at a Perkins. We went,
Riverside.
and you want us to be your mentor.
Yep,
So, and I
because I
appreciate,
thought about coaching at that time.
yeah,
I was like, I
so
want to
I
get.
appreciate that. And but then I seen you, just progress into, it's not very few people that in this town that does broadcasting,
Mm-hmm.
especially people of color. So just talk about the fact that you was able to parlay a career not only here in Twin Cities but also in Kansas City. Then you came back to Twin Cities, and you've been not just a bashful person. You've been very prominent in the
Mm-hmm.
in your media your media shows.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up that meet because I always think about that meeting on a Saturday morning at Perkins, Riverside, just kind of hanging out. And I remember you being there, Coach Boone being there, Coach LeSueur being there, all people that I, known in some way, shape, or form. And at that time, really just thinking about my passion for sports and wanting to get into my passion for basketball, wanting to get into it from that, specific angle. But ultimately getting into the whole media thing in a way in which I just kind of fell into it because at that particular time, just kind of traveling around and doing an internship with the Timberwolves back then, and then that summer, I think it was a summer of '97. I think it was '97 or '98. Flip Saunders, traveling around the state with him, going and doing different camps. There was a press conference that was being set up for him because he was signing his first kind of money deal as a head coach. Because remember when he first was given the opportunity, he was interim, right? And so then when they felt like they had something, they were going to give him a real contract. And so what ended up happening was I remember being at the last day of camp, and the news reporters were coming out there, and I was asked by I think it was like Dean Garrett or somebody to go get something from his vehicle, right? So I'm going out to the parking lot, and I came across this guy by the name of Darren Doogie Wolfson, who works now at Channel 5. He was working at KFAN at the time, and he knew about me really caring about high school recruiting and kids going to college and amplifying the Minnesota kids. And he says, "You ever thought about radio?" And so I said, "No, I ain't never really thought about radio. I mean, I listened a little bit, but he was like, nah, you should definitely come on over. We got an internship. I think you'd be pretty good because you know everybody." And that's where I kind of got my foot in the door, and I got my start with KFAN, did an internship for the Chad and Burrow show, and just kind of took off from there. But really getting to the crux of one of the things that you talked about or asked me about was just, being passionate about this. I'm passionate about it because in Minnesota, in anywhere media matters, right? But also who is telling stories. You think about the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder and the impact and the importance that you guys have here and talking about our point of view and giving our opinion. That matters, and a lot of our kids don't see that.
When you what as you were in high school,
Mm-hmm.
uh, was this what you wanted to be, or you wanted to
No,
coach?
no.
So how did
So actually,
that happen?
actually in high school, I didn't want to do anything sports related. I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
When I went to Morehouse,
Mm-hmm.
I was a pre-law, and I thought that was going to be my path. But as we got into it, and being a poli sci major,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of flipped the script for a second and thought about education because my mother was an educator,
Right.
and so as you know,
Yeah.
and so I kind of wanted to follow in her footsteps a little bit. But then when I started going down taking classes in terms of looking at being a teacher or an educator or whatever, I said, nah, I think the poli-sci thing is a thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I also got the bug for knowing that you could work in front offices in on the sports angle with a law degree or a political science degree.
Okay.
And so I ultimately ended up getting my degree in political science and never went down that education path, even though I ended up working in schools for like 16 years, right? But yeah, no, I never had any intentions when I was at Minneapolis North. Shout out to all the polars out there. I never had any intention of doing that at all. And by the way, I didn't get the memo. I mean, you got North Carolina Central stuff on. You got the Kentucky stuff. As a proud Morehouse man, why didn't y'all tell me to wear the gear? I'm proud of HBCU. My mom and dad went to UAPB. Shout out to them. Come on now.
I have a whole host of HBCUs.
They got me in the stars. Come on now.
Hey.
You know, we got all these brothers that represent HBCUs, and you didn't tell me what the dress code was today.
Now,
I can tell you about Freaknik. I bet somebody in the back can tell you about Freaknik too.
Oh,
but we ain't gonna go there.
What? Oh man. Speaking of HBCUs, had you thought about any other schools that you wanted to go to before you went to Morehouse, or was Morehouse like a vision or always your choice?
So Morehouse was always my dream because, man, when you watching TV and you seeing Jasmine Guy, Whitley, and in a different world, I felt a certain way, right? Like Morehouse was always and the Cosby Show was very impactful, I think, on all of us too. So Morehouse was always the dream school just because I knew about Martin Luther King Jr., I knew about Spike Lee, I knew about Edwin Moses, I knew about, Maynard Jackson, all of them, right? So that was always the dream school. But definitely there are other schools you're going to look at. So I applied to FAMU, got into FAMU. The first school actually that accepted me, even before I got into Morehouse, was VU, Virginia Union.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the schools I was looking at. I looked into Hampton a little bit, but I know the Hampton folks, they're going to like me. And it was just a little bit too, I don't know, bougie. It was a little uppity for me. And not to say that we don't have some uppity brothers at Morehouse, but it just, when my mom took me down for my visit, right? It just felt right. It just felt like it felt like it was meant to be. Number one, it's Atlanta, right? It's the ATL, and
right.
In the early 90s, right? And so when I went on a tour and just saw the city and took it all in, and my mom took me down there over the course of a homecoming. And so I really got the vibe and all that.
And you're in
being around Spelman, that don't hurt anything. And then that Sunday, because we were leaving to come back home on a Sunday. That Sunday morning, we're at the hotel. And we're like maybe a couple hours away from checking out. My mom wanted me to go to the front desk and grab something, whatever, right? So she sends me on that mission. I go down to the front desk, and the person that I see right there at the front desk is Jasmine Guy and her sister.
Wow.
And I said to myself, oh, this is just, you know what I'm saying? I felt like it was a sign, like everything that you see on television, you love. Everything that you've witnessed here over the weekend, you love. It's your dream school. You're at that particular time, because I actually hadn't been received my notification that I was in yet, because I think it was like October, and I ended up getting a little bit after that, but I knew that's where I wanted to be.
Okay.
Now, I remember writing about you many times. I remember writing about you when you first got the job at KFAN, and happy for you. But I always felt that, and I wrote this, and I didn't use your words. I used my words, that you was underutilized at KFAN. That I thought that you was much more talented than where the slots that they had you at. But then you went to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Why Kansas City? How did that opportunity came about to take you there? And what did you learn in Kansas City that you was able to bring it back home?
Yeah.
When you came back home.
Yeah. So for me, I was just kind of thrown into the mix at KFAN. Like, I'll be forever grateful for Mick and Selma for giving me an opportunity to go on the air and do that thing at night and getting my name out there. But when I came up through KFAN, they just kind of threw me in there. There was no formal, like, this is what you do, this is how you build topics, this is saying how you tease topics. This is how you go to break. None of that was given to me. So I wasn't getting all those tools, right? I
Yeah.
was just kind of just basically winging it, and people appreciating just me being very vocal about important topics, but at the same time being such a geek about basketball. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody knew that was really my lane. And so I fed off of that. And I was at KFAN for a long time. I was there for what, 15 years, I think. But then when you look at their day parts, they've had the same day parts for a long time. And so when you don't have any real change like that, and then somebody comes calling and they say, hey, look, we appreciate who you are, what you bring to the table, your talent. We think we can develop you a little bit more and give you more of an opportunity to grow in the business. I had to jump at that because I'd always said to kids in different schools that I worked at, whether it was Franklin Middle School, Nellie Stone Johnson, all the different, I said, when you get an opportunity to do something positive in life, you better take it. And so I would have felt like a hypocrite. I told people at work, I was like, man, I feel like a hypocrite if I didn't take this opportunity to take this job and go to Kansas City. I didn't know nobody in Kansas City except for the person that hired me, John Hanson. And John, many people in the market may know just because he was at Channel 5 and he was the host on Twin Cities Live.
Oh, okay.
And so, but he had always had a radio background because he used to run the ESPN station in Las Vegas. And so when he got an opportunity to go to 610 radio, sports radio in Kansas City, he says, hey, if I ever get an opportunity to do something, whatever, would you even think about, moving or whatever? And I was like, I said, it depends on the opportunity, but I mean, I'm always open, right? And so I think he moved there and started working and being the program director at 610. I want to say in fall of 2017, then February of 20, no, no, fall of 2012. Sorry about that. Then in, I want to say February of 2013, he hit me up and was like, hey, I got a midday spot that's wide open. We're looking for people. It's not a local search, it's a national search, but I definitely think that you should apply because I think that you'd be a good fit and I think you can learn a lot from being here. And for me, no, I'm not married, no kids, why not take a flyer and go and learn about another city at least? And it was the best move I could have made, just because not based on like money or anything like that, but it was just based on an opportunity to live in another town, meet people, grow in the business, learn a lot. I mean, one of the best individuals that I met in Kansas City is Bob Kendrick, who's the president of the Negro League Baseball Museum. The amount of conversations that I've had with him, the people that I've met through Bob, I mean, going there, being part of the Hall of Game, interacting with Dave Winfield, because at that particular time, I mean, being from Minnesota, I'd never met Dave Winfield before, and I met him in Kansas City. I met Joe Morgan, rest in peace to Joe Morgan. All these phenomenal black athletes and stuff like that. So I went there, I learned a lot, I grew as a broadcaster, and then I came back home. And it was really. Let me say this too, so that people are understanding of this. In Kansas City, it's different. So Kansas City, some people will look at it as the South, but they'll also look at it as the Midwest. And when I was there was a whole lot of things going on. You had Ferguson jump off. You had Colin Kaepernick taking a knee. You had a whole lot of things happening, right? Well, y'all know me. I keep it real, and I talk about stuff, right? And there were people there that were like, because there it's like it's stick to sports. It's like we want our sports talk. We don't want nothing else put in there.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not really. I'm not. I'm not cut like that. And so at that particular moment, talking about real things, it just I think it didn't change me, but it mattered that we were having serious conversations about serious things.
Then you came back home, and you went
In
back
2018, and I went back to
went back to KFAN. What was different for you the second stint at KFAN as opposed to the first time you was there?
Nothing. Nothing really. There was less airtime because as I moved out of the time slots that I had at KFAN at the time, other people, get elevated, which that's just natural. That's just part of the process. I wasn't going to be doing no Sunday shows because my guy Justin Gard was going to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was I had in my mindset I want to get other people in the space. I want to get other people in the space, and I'm very intentional about that. So like knowing that with media we lack black voices and we lack black women in the space, I said anything that I try to do, I want to try to get some new people in the mix. So when I created this basketball show, it's called Nothing But Net, and it wasn't just gonna be me. I said Troy Bell. I said Troy, what's up, man? You want? Oh, I don't know that much about radio. I said, dude, bruh, you'll be good. And he was awesome. I said, Colin, Elamine, come on. I know you can. And Colin was already kind of doing some stuff with CBS Sports. And so they hopped on board and we did the show weekly and just had a blast with it. But then WCCO, they came at me and they said, hey, we would love to have you here. Um, and they had reached out to me actually when I was in Kansas City once, a different program director at the time, and it just wasn't a good fit. And so at that particular moment, they came at me. They said, "Hey, this is what it is. You would be the first full-time African American host with a regular day time slot." And of course, I was going to take that, and plus the money was much better. So.
You basically went to an organization that historically has been pretty much all white. I mean, if you talk about WCCO, you weren't talking about anybody black there.
100 years this year.
Yeah.
100 years, yeah.
And I'm a faithful listener of your show, but I remember as we all had to deal with what happened in the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
You was very passionate. You was very open, and you challenged people on the air. To the point, I'm thinking he ain't not gonna be here too much longer.
I wonder if I'm gonna be there too much longer too.
Because you was drawing because CCO wasn't like that. I mean, that's talking what you were saying. You were saying some deep stuff. I know those people that live up and wherever they live that listen to CCO was saying, But how bold and were you given from the higher ups that you was able to speak your mind and speak the way you spoke at that time?
Yeah, I when the executive that brought me on at Odyssey, at that time, Shannon Konecki, when she brought me over there, her and John Hanson, when they brought me over there, I from the first moment that I talked to them, I felt empowered. They said that you've got a great brand. We want you to be a part of our brand. Not only with this opportunity, you would get opportunities to do pre and post game Timberwolves. You have a chance to do pre and post game Minnesota Twins baseball. We need a sports person, but we want you to talk about whatever you want to talk about. So that was them saying that to me openly made me feel empowered. But I also feel like in particular moments, you just got to be real. Not everybody gonna appreciate what you say. Not everybody's gonna like what you say. But you just got to be, real about how you see the world. And so in that particular moment, we all quarantined, right? Except for the people that were protesting. And so we were talking about COVID, we were talking about the protest, whatever. And as the only full-time black male on one of the main networks that employ white people on the radio, I was getting calls from all over the country. I'm doing Sway in the Morning. I'm doing I had who reached out to me and they were like, "Man, we listened to you. You doing great." Kendrick Perkins from ESPN. I had all these people. Clinton Yates from ESPN. He just called me yesterday, checking in on me. So I had all these people, influential people that I like, that I'm fans of. Right? They were like, "Man, we listened to you. You're doing great work." I did like a Zoom seminar or network conversation with all the black people that are part of Microsoft. So I knew I was saying the right things. I was probably speaking to a different audience at that particular time because WCCO listeners, that ain't really our demographic, right? Like their demographic is older, white, individuals and mainly men. And I'm just a breath of fresh air for y'all.
Now, how how do you think you fit in as a role model for people who, like you said, not a lot of broadcasters that are black, not a lot of people that are in journalism, that are black. But how important do you think it is for them to see and hear you? And I'm pretty sure you go speak at different
Yep.
places and all that. How important do you think that is for our community?
It's big. Whenever you're able to see somebody or listen to somebody, I mean, you guys might not understand it, or you probably do. What you guys do here with this podcast, the articles you put in the paper, all of that stuff matters because there's kids that's watching, there's people that's reading that stuff. That all that stuff is impactful. I think the greatest compliment I've ever gotten in my life, ever. It wasn't about a sports take. It wasn't about nothing specific. But a sister came up to me about 12 years ago, and she just said, "I admire you." And that it made me feel a certain way. You know what I'm saying? She had been working in like TV at one of the stations, whatever, but she knew what I was doing and everything. And when she said that, I'm telling you, it just kind of took me back. Like, and that lets you know, man, people are listening to you, people are watching you, and even the young kids and stuff like that. So I think that we are in a space, specifically as black folks, that we got to really take this stuff serious. There are other people in society that have the liberty to do things and not really feel like there's going to be repercussions, but we get kind of one shot at it. I mean, look at sports. In the NFL, black head coaches, ain't a whole lot of Mike Tomlins running around. So for me, I don't know if I'll do this for the rest of my life. Hopefully, I'll be able to do that. But I'm more about building and trying to bring somebody else into the mix, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I've got a startup media venture myself called Lake Media Group, where I'm trying to elevate women's voices, amplify their voices, as well as bring some younger kids into the mix.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about your community involvement because you are deep in the community. You're on several boards. You are involved in a lot of things. It's not just and it's community to your roots. It's not just you're doing something because your contract calls you to do something. Like in the players, they have to do so many appearances or whatever. You doing things that you wouldn't see somebody from CCO doing.
Yeah.
Just talk about some of the things that you do in the community that's not only passionate for you, but also things that you feel is very important that has to be done all the time.
I just think that everybody needs somebody, right? And we got different organizations out here. They get a lot of support, and then we got organizations that don't get none. And so for me, I just want to do as much as I can because we ain't gonna be around here long, right? Like
Right.
you get one opportunity to do this thing. We don't know if you're gonna be here 20 years. We don't know if you're gonna be here 10. You don't know if you're gonna get sick and pass away. I'm 50. I don't know if I'm gonna be here 10 more years, 20 more years, 30. You don't know, but what you do know is that you can do what you can do for somebody else. And that's why, like, I always tell the story about I had some friends of mine that were with me one day as I was, because we're downtown Minneapolis, and I was walking, and I gave some money to a homeless person, and one of my friends was like, "Man, why you give? They probably just gonna go ahead and drink it or smoke it or whatever." And I'm like, I'm not worried about all that. God knows what my heart is and my intentions is and what I want to do for somebody else. If that person want to do what they want to do with that money, that's fine. But I'm gonna always try to look out for people that's less fortunate than me. We blow money on stupid stuff every single day, right? So to me, we should be able to. Somebody's gonna go to the gold room this weekend and spend hundreds of dollars, pop bottles, do all this stuff. Why is me giving a couple of dollars to somebody? Why is that? That's not hurting you at all, right? So in my eyes, I'm gonna always try to do something for somebody else because you never know when you might be in a position where somebody gonna need you. And so there's so many great organizations out there, and I'm just trying to help as many organizations as I can. Right now, it's funny. I got an ice cream flavor. I did a collaboration with Sebastian Joe's Ice Cream, and that supports Masonic Children's Hospital. I think it's an amazing place. The TB1 Fund, which deals with pediatric cancer. The Rebound Club, which is an organization that wants to give kids that are battling illnesses opportunities to go to sporting events. That's just one thing. I got a cookie that's going on right now because the cookie led into the ice cream because I'm friends with Daryl Thompson, former golfer. He is the president of Boulder Options.
Yep.
Our kids need mentors. Our kids need mentors. You know, and when COVID hit or the pandemic happened, whatever, you know what? A lot of organizations missed out on, you know, money.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, how can I come up with something to help Daryl and all the kids in that program? And I went to my friend Tina Rexing, who owns T-Rex Cookies, and I said, hey, I want a cookie. I want my own cookie flavor. And she's like, oh, okay. And I was like, I want to give the proceeds to a charity. And she's like, okay. And then it started from there. Then it went to the ice cream. I just had lunch yesterday with somebody that's just one of the most amazing people I've ever met. And that's Justice Allen Page.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Justice Page met for lunch. I went to him a year ago and I said, hey, I want to collaborate. I want to do something to help your Page Education Foundation raise some funds. And in the span of like 3.5 weeks, we raised like $14,000 for the education fund. So that's just what I'm about. But I get that from my mom and dad. I don't, you know, I really ain't trying to take credit for that. And there's a lot of things that I do aside from all that, because that stuff you might see or hear about on the radio, on television, whatever. But there's a lot of other things that I'm gonna try to do on a day-to-day. But I get weird about being vocal about everything, right? Like some people, to me, they do stuff and I don't need credit. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, I don't need credit for everything. That's why I tell people all the time, and even what we're doing now. You know, we're sitting here and we're talking, and you know, you getting shine, I'm getting shine, you getting shine. But there's always somebody else that's making us look good. Like there's somebody that's doing the audio, there's somebody that's doing the video, all the people behind the scenes. Those are the people that are really, really important. You know, I'm just a face of and get a lot of credit for what a lot of other people do.
Talk about your parents. Your mother was a legendary educator.
Yeah.
Your father was also very involved. Just talk about their impact, their influence on your life.
Yeah.
And that things that they taught you, that something that you might have rebelled because you're young, growing up, and some things you.
I didn't do much rebelling. My mom was putting that foot somewhere.
But that also some things that they showed you early in life that you hung on to, that now you can really apply it and you can see why they wanted you to understand that.
Yeah. My mom was Dr. Joyce Lewis Lake. She spent a lot of years working in the Minneapolis public school system. She was at so many different schools, assistant principal at Henry, assistant principal at North. She got her first head principal job at Falwell. She was principal at Washburn. Left the market and went to Beloit, Wisconsin, and was a superintendent there for a couple of years, and then came back, was at Harrison. You know, so she saw it all. Actually, that's kind of the reason why I got an education directly out of college, was because of my mom. And, you know, one thing that I've told people is, and I got this actually from my cousin Jackie, I don't care what you do in the world for a job, work in a school for 1 year. Seriously, your perspective on the world and dealing with young people will be different. I'm not saying nothing to y'all because y'all done lived it. You know what I'm saying? But like people that work in other areas in other occupations in life, they don't really understand it. And I actually didn't either. My first year out of college, it was rough. Real talk. I am working at, of all schools, my first job, I was at Southwest High School. Southwest is unique. It's on the border of Edina and Minneapolis. So you got a mix of hood and, you know, upscale.
Yep.
And so literally you're 2 blocks over from like 50th and France, right? So on the way to work, if I want to, I can go to Willette Bakery and get me a whatever, donut, whatever, and then breeze into work, right? That school was kind of a complex situation because of the mix of students there, right? And then you had like even when I was at Minneapolis North, you know, as a high school, as one of the few high schools, I don't know if they still have this program, but they had a program for young mothers, right? They had a program at Minneapolis North, because I remember back when I was in school, who was ahead of me that had a young child? Jamisa Bennett, the singer, and so and then like Southwest had the same program. So when I got there, fresh out of college, right? I'm trying to do my best okay, to really instill and empower these young kids as a program coordinator. That was my trying to get people into ACES program, Big Brother, Big Sister, and all that, whatever. But I wasn't really effective. I was effective, but not really. And the reason why I wasn't effective was because I wasn't far enough removed from them, age wise. I'm talking to them about what they should be doing to become better students and go to college, and they're looking at me and they're like, "Look, you're trying to tell us what to do. I'm 18. You need to be hanging out with us."
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them and I'm like, "I am not your peer,
Yeah.
right? I'm not your peer." And so
Yep.
that was a rough year for me because towards the back end of the year, I remember having a this is pre-cell phone, right? For me at least. I went to the back hallway, threw a quarter in the payphone, and I called Cheryl Creasy.
Yeah.
And she was,
Cheryl
yep,
Creasy.
she was one of the assistant superintendents, whatever. And I said, "You got to get me out of here." And she's like, "Well, what's the matter? What's the matter, baby? What's the matter?" I was like, I can't do it with these kids. And that's kind of rough too. Like if you start in high school different than elementary school or whatever, right? Middle school. And I said, I just can't deal with these kids. The kids don't really respect me the way that they should. And she was like, "Oh, we can get you to a different level. We can get you an elementary." And I said, "Nah, nah, nah." So I was actually kind of cool on school for the next year. I actually stepped out for a year. And during that transition, I did the internship with the Timberwolves in basketball community relations, and I also worked. I worked 2 jobs. I did that, and then I also did. I was working nights at the Wyndham Garden Hotel in Bloomington. I was doing little odd jobs there, like front desk one night, the next night running people to the airport for the shuttle. So I was doing that, and then eventually I ended up getting an internship at KFAN, which was literally right across the highway on 494. And then I was doing like all three, and then one thing just kind of led to another.
Man, now how long were you in education?
From 97 until actually 96, 96.
You took a break.
Took a break for a year, came back, and did that all the way up until I left here in 2013. And actually, when I came back, right before I got hired by CCO, I was actually in the Richfield Public Schools
Okay.
for a year.
Now, did those experiences help you develop into what you're doing today?
In terms of education?
Yeah, in terms of education, your experience dealing with the dealing with the youth,
dealing with the youth, dealing with the parents,
Yeah.
dealing with everybody. I
Yeah.
just teachers don't get paid enough to deal with what they deal with. Seriously, because not just from a negative. I don't mean that just from a, like having to deal with like problem kids and stuff like that. But I'm talking about just from your molding minds. Like that's an important thing to do. You know, when we talk about people being in certain jobs and occupations and what they where they want to take kids in life, to be able to sit in a classroom, you know what I'm saying, and give a young person the tools to survive in life, it's such an amazing thing. It's such an amazing skill to have. I had kids, I remember back at like Nellie Stone Johnson, little kids that I remember one little girl, she probably was maybe like in the first grade, and she'd have a father in the home. And she came up and she like hugged me on my leg and said one day, she's like, "Mr. Lake, it's almost like you're my dad." Oh man, that'll make you feel a certain, you know what I'm saying? That shows you how impactful you are. So yeah, I just think that teachers, educators really don't get their due because I think the one time that they got their due was when we was all quarantined. When parents was quarantined with their kids, oh man, you heard some complaining. Did you not? Oh my goodness, I can't do it every day with them here. The Zoom ain't working for me.
No, it was.
But I learned a lot about how to deal with people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I you know, something I do want to mention, and I think I mentioned it to you before, is that I started my career as an educator at 22, right out of school, working with my dad.
Yep.
And we ended up teaching a class called Survival Skills for young Black males. And then there was another class at the middle school level. That was at the high school level. The middle school level, a co-ed class called Destiny. and I was at Henry High School,
Mm-hmm.
and your mom was an assistant principal at
Mm-hmm.
Henry High School
Mm-hmm.
during that time. So she was one of the, she's one of the first people that I met that was, I'm looking at a
Yeah.
black woman. I'm 20. I just turned 22, man. And I'm seeing, I'm seeing a black woman in charge.
Yep.
And that was very important. So I had her, Shirley Purvis,
Yep.
and and my dad. And so as a young teacher, that was very
Yeah.
important. That was
Yep.
very important to me. I didn't realize it at the time
Yeah.
until I got older, because I'm 22. I'm like, man, I got a job. I'm working
Yep.
at I'm working at a school, that type of thing.
Yep.
But I wanted to point that out to just let the audience know about the different connections that people don't know that you have.
Yep.
And and then of course, me and you hooked up later.
Yep.
But it was just very, very, very early in my career when I thought I knew everything and didn't know nothing.
Yep.
And it was just good to have those black role models
Yeah.
there. And my dad helped. My dad obviously helped with that too.
Yeah.
Because
I get
himself.
emotional just you bring up my mom, but I get more emotional about your dad, to be honest with you. And I'm a person that gets emotional from time to time when you talk about people that you love and you care about, because this is our lives.
Mhm.
But man, I just remember right before your dad passed, and I went to go visit him the night before.
Mhm.
And the person that told me that your father was nearing the end of his journey was Charles. I
Mhm.
bumped into Charles. So kind of funny story, but everybody know back in the day, right? The spot to go get that nice little seasoned chicken was Cub Foods on Broadway, right?
course.
Cub Foods, they had the right cat in the kitchen back
course,
then,
of
about over a decade ago.
Yeah.
And that was the spot to go to, right?
Yes,
Because this was long past. Because back
then.
way back when I was a kid,
Mhm.
what was the name of the King of Wings?
Yep,
King of Wings. That was a spot. That was
King of
that was
Wings.
back, when Ray Seville and all them cats used to be all up in what was it right on Broadway?
Riverview.
Riverview.
Yeah.
Yeah, Riverview. I was too young to get in the Riverview, but I wasn't too young to get me one of them little 10 three wings for $1, right? Everybody know the
That's
3
funny.
wings for $1, right? So, but wasn't no King of Wings, and then remember at that time you also had the wing joint, which was over there by the Capri.
Yes.
So those is kind of the two spots, right? And so those places have been long gone. But in like I would say between like 2004 to like 2015, Cub Foods right there on Broadway and Lindale had some fire chicken. And so I went up there one day after work, after I got out of school at Nellie Stone Johnson, and I bumped into Charles, and Charles told me kind of where your dad was at in the situation, whatever. And so you gave me the address or whatever, and I was like, for real, I was tired, and so I was tired from work, and I don't know what I had done that made me so tired that day. Maybe I went to the gym before school and all that, whatever. But I left, ate my chicken, whatever, and then what I do, laid out. I laid down, right? And you know how that nap get to you, right? That nap, it starts feeling real good, and this, and that, the other, whatever. And then I was like, I gotta get up because I need to go see, Kwame. And but then I started making like all these excuses. I actually told this story once before at the Winfield Awards.
Yeah.
But I made up like 2-3 different excuses in my mind. I said, nah, man. I said, somebody would want, I would want somebody to come see me. And I said, I'm not gonna put this off tomorrow, because if I put it off tomorrow, ain't no telling, right? It ain't a given. And so I got up, I drove over to the place over in St. Paul, right off the Parkway there.
Yeah, sure.
And yep. And I went visit with your pops. I think there was like a TV in the room. I'm pretty sure it was like it might have been a Monday. And there was some basketball on. I'm watching basketball, and I'm reading the paper, the Spokesman-Recorder, and visiting and just talking to him, telling him I love you, everything. And then your neighbors came in, or his neighbors came in. His neighbors came in, and then it was their time to visit, right? Because I had been there for like 90 minutes or whatever. And so I left, And then the next morning was when I heard that your father had passed. And I just tell that story because I think a lot of times we procrastinate with stuff in life, and we shouldn't be doing that. When God tells you to move and do something, and it's the right thing to do, you do it. Because if I hadn't went that night, I wouldn't have been able to see your father off.
Yeah, it was of course I remember that day. I remember you telling me that story, but yeah, it was just it is important to give flowers while you're here.
Yep.
Which is what we're realizing by doing this podcast.
Yep.
That we want to talk to people that are doing things that will continue to have an impact.
And another thing, I'm glad you brought that up in terms of giving people their flowers. I think that our young people, not just young people, but specifically young people, because I'm always trying to get some wisdom or some knowledge to people that are younger than us.
Mm-hmm.
But even us at our age, we need to really be more active about helping or reconnecting with people that helped us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been very intentional this year, and I got to set up some other meetings, but teachers that we had,
Mm-hmm.
and educators, I've been really trying to meet up with them and thank them. And so I met up with Cheryl Creasy
Mm-hmm.
a few months ago. And we had lunch at Hazelwood, and I just thanked her. And I hadn't seen her actually since my mom had passed. This will be 20 years since my mom passed.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got a chance to talk and hug and eat and everything, whatever. And I also got a chance to go visit one of my former principals. I don't know if you guys remember the name, Willarine Beasley.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Miss Beasley.
Yes.
And so Miss Beasley's in a facility.
Mm-hmm.
She's dealing with some very serious health issues, whatever. But it meant something to me to go see her. You know what I'm saying? And I was able to connect with her sister, who was also an educator, and just kind of hang out for the day and all that. So I just think that we should be doing that, because we always supposed to look out for our elders, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we need to continue to do.
Yeah.
Now on your show, you don't stick to sports. You talk about all kind of issues. So we would be remiss if we didn't ask you about what's going on in our country now and in the next 2 months that could definitely be historical,
Yeah.
or whatever. What's your thoughts about what's going on? We've seen, this guy I heard today, in the last 60 days, we've seen things change, or things that we didn't expect. And we're going to see some things that's probably as we lead into November. Your thoughts about what's going on in this country and why it's so important that everybody need to be paying attention to what's happening.
Well, I just think that we're in a place right now where we're so divided, right? And it's along the political lines there, whatever, right? Which is unfortunate. I think that we'll get past this, but I think it's just us being logical about how we move.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I just, we talk about politics, right? We got to vote. Right, like we got to vote. Like I would never set out an election because my grandparents and my great grandparents and us, our ancestors being slaves, whatever, they weren't afforded the right. Ain't no way I'm sitting anything out. Right? Do I believe that there's a perfect candidate? No, I don't. I don't think there's a perfect candidate. But there's some certain things I'm just not going for. Right? I can't get with. But with that being said, it's going to take some time for us to, I think, heal. There's been a lot of stuff going on the last few years, right? And I think at the end of the day, if you reside in a Black community, you have to understand that there's a certain things that aren't afforded to us. And we have to think about what the bigger picture is. It's funny because last night on the during the DNC, you had Common rapping, you had Lil Jon, and what did Lil Jon say? He said we ain't going back, whatever.
Yeah.
And look, in my heart, I don't think we're going back. But man, there's people out there that really don't like us. Seriously, that can't stand us. I was at the gym earlier today, and I saw it. We get the vibes, right? Like we all get the microaggressions and stuff like that. And I'm not one to really I be looking like, and because I'm visible too. People see me on TV or doing the Channel 9 thing, whatever. And so there's a different type of lane that I'm in just because of the visibility piece.
Yeah.
But we have to be steadfast and we have to be proactive about what type of world we want for our kids. Because to me, it's like, it ain't just about what I want to do the next 5 years or 10 years or 20 years or whatever, or however long I'm here, but about our kids. What world do we want our kids to be in? You know what I'm saying? So I have a lot of problems with a lot of different things that are going on. But I think more than anything, it's funny because I'm not a golfer, right? And I was asked to fill in for Governor Walz like a week or so ago. It was a fundraiser up in Mankato. So I went up there and I hung out, whatever, but I ain't golfing. I ain't spending $6. I mean, that ain't my thing. But my whole thing was when I think about not being in other people's business, I think that that's a very important thing to take out of this current election. We don't know where everything is going to go. I do agree with Michelle Obama last night. She said it's going to be it's going to be close. We know that, right? It's going to be close. But my whole thing is, and has Governor Tim Walz done everything that I agree with? No. Has he done things that I do agree with? Yes. I 100% agree with him about there's a lot of things just from everyday, I'm a human, you a human, you got a different religion than me, you got a different, where I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care what's going on in your bedroom. I don't care, what church you go to, whatever. I'm more concerned with getting myself together. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, some of those themes kind of resonate with me a little bit because I think that for us to be better as a country, better in communities, better across the board, we got to get ourselves together.
Yeah.
There's stuff I'm still trying to work out.
Just and you make a good point. I mean, we just 2020 is something that we'll never forget, but also took something out of our lives. I think we'll never get that back. I mean, we shut down and we had things happen. And I think about that because, we're losing a lot of people that we've known over the years that we didn't get the chance to see. So we lost that contact with them and then they left us. And
Yeah.
said, wow, I would have saw them if we was able to do that. But I just think, and I said that to somebody in NABJ, I just think that year we lost. I don't think we ever get that year back. I don't care how long we live. I think we'll never get 2020 back. I think that was just snatched out of our system, and I just don't see us getting that back.
Well, there was just a whole lot of hurt too. Like, I think that people think that aren't in a black community or live in a diverse neighborhood with a lot of different people or believe in the multicultural aspect of the world. They don't understand how much loss from the world that we had in that 20 to 21. And it wasn't just George Floyd. Like, I think about when people talk about Minneapolis, they think about like the George Floyd stuff, whatever. Think about what was going around the country. Like Breonna Taylor, what happened with her in Kentucky? Like that all those things hurt. What's the sister that we lost in Texas? She was pulled over. And it was so tragic because remember they threw her in jail and then they claimed that she committed suicide. I can't remember her name right now and I apologize for that. But like, it's not just about what happened here. It's about stuff that's happened for years. We still hear the stories about Tysell, right? Like, I mean, all that stuff is I mean, that's important stuff. I remember I tell you, when I was in Kansas City, and they are sports stuff. I remember though, I was sitting on my couch. I lived in Overland Park, Kansas, right? Where it's hardly any black folks, right? It's kind of the suburbs of Kansas. I remember when I first saw the video of Philando. I remember sitting on my couch crying about that. And of course, I'm in Kansas City, and everybody's asking me about it. And I'm like, man, I'm not there. But you know what I'm saying? But I felt that. So like, I think that the reason why I bring all that stuff up is there's trauma that we work through every day.
Very true. Very true. It's really how can I put it? just like you said, Charles, 2020 was very, very, very tough, for all of us.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's never been the same. We're still trying to get back, to what things were like and how things were progressing.
Yep.
But there was a stoppage, and it's affected everyone.
Yeah.
No one can say they weren't impacted. I taught from my house, for about almost 2 years,
Me too.
and the students did the same thing, and I saw the
Oh, you said
difference.
taught.
Taught,
Yeah, yeah. And I
taught.
talked. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I'm in my house, teaching, through the computer,
Yep.
Zoom,
Yep.
and it was really interesting coming back. And now the one thing, and I kind of tease. I used to tease Charles about it. I said one thing that kept going was athletics, though, but that didn't stop, which kind of shows you how
It stopped for a minute.
Yeah,
It stopped for a minute. It stopped for that. Remember that moment we was watching The Lion King, and we was watching what was the Jordan the 30 for 30.
Oh yeah,
the last thing.
But
And then the first thing to come back was the Korean baseball, and
Yep.
after that, then we had all the stadiums
but-
without. Yeah,
but my point is it wasn't gone for long.
yeah, it wasn't going.
So and I would always joke and go, well, there's one thing, there's one thing that's pretty important. Athletics is pretty important, and it's something we took for granted before that happened.
Yep.
But somehow they made sure that things went on, and that was just the interesting part that I got out of that, was that a lot of things were stopped, and athletics was for a while, but they, through all the different things, they made sure that came back and that stayed, and just shows me how important athletics is all across the board.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I still remember to this day when Prince passed away, because I was living in Kansas City, right?
yeah.
So I was living in Kansas City, and I remember that day in a commercial break, we're on the air, and my co-host, he turned his computer screen towards me because he had it on like TMZ. And I'm like, of course I'm going to feel a certain way being a North Sider, all that stuff, whatever. And I was like, so then I'm hustling to try to get people on the phone. I reached out to my people at First Avenue. I got somebody from First Ave on to talk about whatever. But when I went home that night, real talk, I cried about it. But I didn't cry just because Prince had passed. I cried because I wasn't here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what I'm saying? When I saw the images of all the stuff in downtown Minneapolis and the people outside of First Avenue and the people going up to Paisley Park, I'm like, man, I'm not at the crib.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm sad, but I'm removed, So that's something I'll never forget.
Mm. Man.
And I was doing an interview on Broadway when somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Have you heard?" I said, "Heard what?" I said, "Prince died." Well, I'm doing an interview, so I didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I got that interview over, man, I spent that rest of the day assembling, obit for that, and I remember I caught up with Robin Robinson because she was one of the few ones that did a sit down with him, and that he would, that he agreed to.
Yep.
She broke down on me doing the interview. I mean, because she couldn't, she just couldn't. So I had to wait several minutes for her to just compose herself to just even talk about, and about that. I just wanted to talk about the interview that she did with him, but she stopped, and I could hear her crying, and she said, "Give me a couple minutes, I'm good.
Yeah.
As long as I can get it." But I think I was the only one that really got to her in terms of getting quotes from her to use. I remember I talked to other people, but I needed to talk to her because I knew that would be, as a newsman, I'm trying to get something that nobody else has.
Yep.
And I was able to reach her before everybody else got to her. And so I really got some raw emotions from her to be able to use about, her time with Prince. But yeah, that was But we all have things that happen in our lives that we can pinpoint. Say, yeah, we was there at this point. We was there at this point. I remember, but going back to 2020, what really affected me was you couldn't tell one day to the next. It was just sitting
All the
there.
days ran together.
Yeah, I said, man, and
My sleep was all messed up.
yeah, it was today's Thursday. No, today ain't Thursday. It's Friday. People was just telling me, no, it just seemed like it just one continuous day. It was never any, okay, the day is Thursday. Okay, you didn't go to church, so therefore you didn't know Sunday anymore
Yeah.
because Sunday was wiped out. So yeah, it was just an interesting thing. Now,
But I think the one thing that we learned from that time frame of when the world shut down to the point of coming out of it is we understood it's a situation where we adapt and we overcome our obstacles. Because remember how it was where they were like, grandparents couldn't see their grandkids and everybody is masked up and they couldn't hug them. You couldn't touch people that you love and all that, whatever. And how do you maneuver and massage and get around that to a point of being creative about how we move? One of the most creative things that happened during the pandemic was the verses. Like when we had the verses and stuff like, because we all love music, right? We love music. We love going to concerts and stuff like that. I just went and seen Smith and Wesson last week. We had a million concerts over the weekend here in the city. I didn't go to like Metallica or none of that other stuff, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But like, I'm looking forward to going to the Locks coming up here next month. Like when I'm watching every single verses, so it really showed the ingenuity, creativity that we have in the culture and outside of the culture. And I think that's something that we should be taking advantage of as we've gotten back to, our lives.
Yeah. Well, Henry, we always allow our guests to speak to our audience and share with them pearls of wisdom. I don't know if you have any, but we'll offer you that opportunity anyway.
Wait, have I reached that age of pearls of wisdom?
We'll say.
I mean,
we'll say.
I know I got this gray, but that's because you older than me, but you shave your face.
We'll just we won't say pearls. We'll just say wisdom. All right. But now, don't get us wrong. You don't have to have anything.
No, I mean, I'll just. It ain't nothing deep, because to me, I ain't forcing nothing. But just, I think right now, where we're at in the world, we just have to be more supportive of other people. And I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to do, and I want other people to do it too, is we should start to listen more than we talk. Like we're here talking, it's a podcast, all that stuff, whatever, right? But just in general life, listen more a little bit. I think if we listen a little bit more intently to people, because everybody going through something, then I think that we'll all love a little bit more, and we'll come together a little bit more.
That's good. Well, Henry, I'm very proud of you. I've been proud of you ever since the first time I met you, and I've been proud of following your career. And
I appreciate all your support. I'm dead serious, man.
You know me. I'm unabashedly supporting Black people, so that's not gonna change. But so proud of you because as I was talking to somebody in the beginning, I talked to young people, so there's a lot of young people there. And I say, sometimes you don't get that opportunity to work in the city that you grew up in. You got to go away and maybe come back. And because young people don't understand that sometimes you got to go someplace and establish yourself, then those doors are open. But you and Leah B. Olson, you're one of the few that was able to carve a career in your hometown and keep it sustained. There's some that start a career and next thing you know they disappeared or whatever and never kept up. But you two has kept it going. So very proud of you being on CCO. I'm thankful that you think highly of me, that you want me to talk on the air from time to time. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate y'all, and I appreciate the Minnesota Spokesman-Recorder, and y'all mean so much to this community. And we all gotta do what we can to support our community, and we should be always trying to reach back and do stuff for those in our neighborhoods. I think that's real important because, and I said this in the Star Tribune profile that they did a couple years ago. When I get some props or I'm talking or I'm on TV or whatever, it ain't just about me. I think about all the people that didn't get an opportunity. I think about my classmate Phil Lockhart that was killed in North Minneapolis. I think about somebody that took me to Vikings games when I was a kid, and Pedro Ramos. I think about Charles Jackson. I think about cats that didn't get an opportunity to live out their dreams. So I'm just trying to live out mine, and hopefully a little piece of them is living through me.
Well, we want to thank you. Really appreciate you coming here.
Late.
I'm not
I had to make y'all wait.
Let's just say I know they're gonna cut that part out long. Yeah, we just gonna say you weren't on time. We just gonna say you weren't on time. That's all we gonna say. This is this is Blacklight on Sports. I'm Dr. Mitchell Palmer-McDonald.
And I'm Charles Hallman, and thank you for being with us. And please read both of us in the paper every week. Listen to Henry Lake on WCCO Radio, and we hope that you tune with us very soon.